machine, which is known as a thermocycler, and all the exercise. It makes a very costly business. Now, many techniques, this genome detection techniques have come up mostly in USA and also in Europe. But I don't think they'll come to the market so easily. Although they're much easier, much faster, and they're high throughput, they can carry on tests, at least thousands of tests in a go. And this profile, it's a broad overall profile as I have given here. It is a CRISPR based. As we all know, why I didn't go to the basics of RT-PCR, because it is almost a school knowledge these days. Everybody knows what is done in RT-PCR. But the applied CRISPR techniques are already there. That's why I wanted to put this slide, so that all the listeners can, although you might be knowing that, but still then I will get a chance to elaborate this. You see, CRISPR, we know, is a technique joined with the CRISPR associated proteins, which recognizes the RNA viruses or even the DNA viruses infecting a bacteria. Those RNAs, their repetitive sequences will be kept as a memory cascade inside the viral host genome. So next time when the virus attacks, this memory cascade of RNA genome of the infecting virus will be used to make an antisense RNA, and it will go and block the RNA of the viral genome, so that it cannot, first thing, it cannot, if it is a positive strand, it cannot directly join to the protein synthesis machinery and synthesize proteins, or if it is a negative strand also, by blocking the memory strand of the CRISPR, it can block, thereby not allowing the infecting viral RNA to transcribe and synthesize proteins. That is the beauty of CRISPR. And if not today, definitely within a month, all CRISPR technologies will come into being, which doesn't need any, it is isothermal, as I told you. You don't need to increase the temperature like we have in PCR 72, 92, again 72. You don't need to do that. You don't need a thermocycler also. Simply a testing kit can do all that. Only you need it a pure RNA. For that, of course, you can amplify, or simply the minimum, the viral load is enough to extract the RNA. With that much, you can detect. So, as I told you, RPA, we all know, recombinase recombinase polymerase amplification. What is it? It is done a D loop here. Here it is not detailed. Yes, the D loop. The D loop is done with the infecting genome. If it is a DNA virus also, it will work. If it is an RNA virus also, it will work. By making a D loop, it will loop on itself, thereby making it free for transcription that point onwards. That way, once it is transcribed, whether it's again an RNA, as you can see it, the RNA is extracted, and through reverse transcription amplification, the DNA is made. From the first amplification itself, the RNA also can be in vitro transcribed into individual single strand RNAs, and then the magic of the Cas proteins comes. As it is a CRISPR based technology, as I told you, the Cas9 can directly deal with the DNA genome. Cas12a can detect with single stranded DNA before it gets into a cDNA because of the D loop made here. But Cas13a is specifically dealing with RNA molecules. By in vitro transcription, you get the RNA. By using the Cas13, you split the RNA of the specific virus. By so doing, you can hit, even there is a single copy or 10 copy RNA is available in the host also. You don't need to wait for the requisite threshold of the viral load of the RNA, so that you can continue amplifying that, and then the detection will be easier. With the minimum RNA in the host, you can use this CRISPR based recombinase polymerase amplification, and then you can go for Cas application. By, you see here, so doing, you can definitely have a quantitative estimation by agarose as well as lateral flow strips. These are common, you already know. At the same time, you can have a quantitative estimation of the RNA present. How? By labeling them with fluorescent labels, so that the visualization processes is made easier. All is done in one. The data can be digitally transmitted to a monitor. There, on the basis of the visualization degree, it will measure automatically, telling that yes, these are the potential carriers. I think this much is okay for an overall understanding. Now I will rush through. These are the techniques available. As I was telling, latest, the first week of May itself, all these techniques are available to labs. I do not know why these CRISPR-based detector assays are not made public. They are 1/10 to 1/20th less costlier, and then it saves enough of time. You see, CRISPR-based sensitivity is 10 to 100 copies RNA is also enough in a microliter, and the overall time it takes for one sample or a lot of sample takes, one take is 40 minutes. Likewise, these are all different latest certified CRISPR-based detection techniques. Okay, now here see the sensitivity, single molecule per millimeter, and it can be detected in that level within 1 hour. Then dual CRISPR, these are also very popular. You can surf in the internet, you will get all the details. All the pharmaceuticals, molecular biology, biotechnology, multinational companies are having hold over all these techniques. I do not know why they are making all these things available to the common public at this peak hour of COVID. I think within a month or so, definitely all these tests will be available so that you don't need to go with this heavy machinery of COVID detection. Okay, all this I have told you what minimum viral load, RNA molecules with minimum 4 to 6, 11 copies of RNA in microliter, you can have detection, satisfactory detection, and the time is also 40 to 9 minutes. Now, as I told you, the Cas13 base, which I explained in the previous diagram, you see only 10 copies of RNA per microliter is required, and it takes, of course, 1 to 2 hours, but definitely it's faster compared to the latest. And these are high throughput, and you don't need, as I told you, these are isothermal technique. You don't need the PCR and the thermal cycler. And of course, one of the most important and very popular, it is going to be very popular, the Feluda technique, where you see a femtomolar concentration of RNA also is enough to detect the presence of the viral RNA, and the time it takes nearly 1 to 2 hours. Now, as I told you, with the genome intervention, we can go with all these detection kits. With the protein, I think I don't need to go detail. I have already told some of the things, and the Professor Kaushik also has explained. But then still, the spike protein is the only way out through which you can first establish connection to the host cell. People are trying to understand the nature of the spike protein, especially the S1 epitome, as I told you, and then tinker with the proteome nature of the S1 subunit so that we'll disturb its establishing connection with the ACE2 receptor. Because you cannot play with the ACE2, and there is a spelling mistake here, Angion staining. Sorry, there's a mistake in the spelling. Okay, anyway, ACE2 is the popular receptor. Now, yesterday only I was watching somewhere the Australian scientists have already done a lot of research. Dr. Mohapatra, am I running slow? Hello? Hello, Professor? Hello?
Please carry on, sir. Please carry on. Please carry on.
I'm late. I may take 10 more minutes. Okay,
no.
Please.
Okay. Please.
So,
please.
The ACE receptor protein, which connects to the receptor binding domain of the spike, one epitome of the spike protein, people have done research all the possible intermediary animals, whether they're bats, pangolins, or civet monkeys, or even pangolins. All the ACE receptors are the analogs in the receptor, as well all primates receptors, at least 12 primary receptors, ACE receptors, they have done the research. And surprisingly, only human ACE receptor is very sensitive to the S1 epitome of the spike protein. That's why they suspect that there is something has been done with the spike protein, some tinkering has been made to make it very strongly connected to the ACE human receptor. Not only all mammalian, you see, all these are mammalian animals, but then human being ACE receptor is so specific to the S1 epitome of spike. Why it is so specific, why it is not connecting or establishing connection with other ACE receptors in other mammals, that is a big question. Hence, they are now doing a lot of research in whether these S1 epitopes are already existing in other animal forms or in other virus. As you know, virus constitute hardly 4% of the biodiversity. Although it is 4% of the biodiversity, still it is a huge number. And the coronavirus itself has got four subfamilies, as I already told, alpha, beta, delta, and gamma. And there are 1,000 genomic variations, which are even zeroed in into single nucleotide variations. Now, if there is a single nucleotide variation, we popularly call as a SNPs or single nucleotide polymorphism, then also the very nature of the epitope S1 protein changes. Now, somewhere, where is that single nucleotide which has been tinkered with so that it is having more proximity or affinity towards the human ACE2 receptor? That is the biggest research. And once that is done, I think the most effective and target antiviral vaccines can be synthesized. If not vaccine, some therapeutics or pharmaceutical molecule can be synthesized. Now, okay. Now, sorry, I think. Okay. Now, most important, as I told you, whether it is in stage of detection or in stage of treating the therapeutics, antibodies plays a very important role. The first line of defense in our body once the virus gets inside are the antibodies. And hence the antibodies, whether, as I told you, this is the first time the virus is infecting human beings. So there are no history of antibodies specific to this virus, SARS-CoV-2 virus. Hence, whatever serum are available from the convalescent patients or the first line of patients, whatever little serum antibodies can be collected, first is important to collect them and make them sufficient enough to carry out research on the antibodies, whether for testing of antibodies or thorough understanding of the protein profile or antibody profiling, or to tinker with the antibody so that it can definitely have an impact on the immunosystem of the host itself, at the same time attack the spike protein at the receptor binding domain. Anyway, these are the popular techniques, as I have already told. But most important right now also, most of the time, I think our scientists are also, and most of the political scientists, I mean political scientists in this is the, say whether a chief minister of a state or a minister at the center. Yes? Yes? Okay. Now, they're all talking about antibody testing. But then antibody testing is also very limited, because till date, whatever number of patients we have to have all the patients recovered first. Then after they recover, you have to collect serum, their blood serum, and then from there the coalescence antibodies you have to collect. It will be a very delayed task. It is a Herculean task. It will take a pretty long time in order to attain the antibody testing, in order to diagnose as well as to treat. It will be a very prolonged time. Hence, scientists have already come up with these techniques, as I have detailed. Quantitative proteomics, cytokine arrays. As I told you, the first immunoresponse is a storm of cytokines from our body. So depending on the cytokine profile from the patient, the first thing from the very moment human species is infected, once it starts showing symptoms, even if they are asymptomatic carriers, you can take blood from them and definitely you can take the cytokine profile of such people and then make an understanding so that how come the cytokine storm can be minimized, so that as it has got direct impact on the lower respiratory tract of the human being that eventually leads to death, that can be minimized. Here also, the gravity of infection and the symptoms only can be minimized. It cannot be completely cured, even cured to a very substantial degree. Hence, it is also not very much encouraging. What we need is immediate testing through antibodies or serum contents or part of the proteins of the virus, as well as or else the immunoresponse proteins from the host. Now, with regard to immuno-PCR ultra-sensitive ELISA, we all know that. ELISA we know. But this test can be with a microliter of the blood serum, immediately can be done to first detect the specific virus. Not only that, from that, through artificial culture, animal cell culture. Hello? Yes.
We are running out of time. Please.
Okay. Oh, sure, sure. Three more slides. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now these are the techniques already available which you can apply to study the antibody arrays, so that it not only it can help you faster detection, but definitely it can act as a therapeutic. If not straight vaccine, it can definitely act as a viral vaccine components. Now these are the typical antibody testing. These are all collected from internet. We all know how the ELISA test and the antibody tests are done. But quantibody, as the test shows that it is a high throughput. At the same time, you can take many samples up to 1,000, and that 1,000 times effective and sensitive to a very low amount of serum protein. Now, all might be knowing how come Moderna have come up with this RNA virus. Why RNA virus? RNA is very easy. They are not made up of any viral particles or viral proteins. They don't need to be infectious themselves. They can straight be injected to the human being, and of course with a lipid nanoparticle envelope with them. And more important, it has got a very immediate therapeutic effect in the patients. It has been already tested. I think the trial is in the second stage already, and within no time it will come into the public use. Now, of course, these are very popular. I will rush through how the monoclonal antibodies are synthesized. Everybody knows that, but still then for common interest, I had inserted these slides. And these are the popular people who are working on preparing the monoclonal antibodies specific to corona virus genome, as well as the S1 spike proteins. Okay, these are the popular methods by which you can synthesize monoclonal antibodies through hybridoma techniques. These are all school and college biology, all of us know. Now, advantage of monoclonal antibodies: they are monovalent, they are very specific, they can be easily used to hit the specific epitope of the antigen. Here, in that case, the S1 epitope of the antigen. Now, of course, since I'm basically a plant biotechnologist, I have introduced this. These are the possibilities of molecular farming, that is producing the diagnostics from the plants like your alfalfa or your tobacco plant. Using them, you not only can synthesize antibodies specific to coronavirus, but at the same time, you can also simulate the synthesis of subgenomic RNAs of the CoV-2 virus. Now, this is the status. You might have known all this. What are the possible vaccine candidates? They can be RNA vaccines, they can be DNA vaccines, they can be recombinant proteins, or they can be vector, they can be inactivated vaccines or live attenuated vaccines. And these are the timeline when possibly you are going to get this. So the first available are the RNA vaccines, of which I told mRNA 1273, that is very much there. But all these take, as it is explained here, it will take at least 1.5 years to get to this level, where like any polio vaccine, you can have a live attenuated viral vaccine against SARS-CoV-2. And these are the present scenario. I think Professor Kaushik has also mentioned some of this. What all things have been done? But then you see, everybody rush into a kind of miracle antidote for CoV-2, but it's not easy. It's a serious research. And imagine the entire medical fraternity all over the world, and the accessory fraternity like biotechnologists, whether it's animal biotechnology or microbiologists or plant biotechnologists, molecular biologists, everybody is working in line. But then the threshold is much high. I don't think so easily it will come. It's not a social scientist job, as has been told by someone, I don't know. I've quoted it from net. It's a job of a serious medical research. Hence, it will take some time, but then definitely there is a silver lining. We are definitely at the threshold. Definitely one of our legs is already at the door with regard to all these available antidotes. I think among the most popular are the Pfizer-BioNTech, where BNT162 already hitting the market, and ICMR Bharat Biotech, it was very much in the news. They most possibly they are going, and Sun Pharmaceuticals, they are claiming that their Nafamostat is already in the market. We do not know, but we have to wait another 6 months to 1 year. Okay, that's all. I think I could do justice to whatever topic I had been given, and with these positive notes, I want to tell that nothing lasts forever. even if it is the coronavirus. So in this situation where you don't have any immediate antidote at our disposal, we don't have much idea about what is what, we can stay home, stay safe, but definitely we continue fighting hard. Wish you all very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Jitendra Nath Patnaik, head of the department SKCG Autonomous College, Parlachamundi, speaking on the topic biotechnological interventions in meeting the COVID-19 challenges. He has explained A to Z of COVID-19 virus very nicely and elaborately. Professor Patnaik had an advanced professional training in plant biotech in Germany, and he also worked in salinity stress physiology in the famous Max Planck Institute of Plant Physiology, Germany. Your talk was really very illuminating, and our participants must have benefited a lot out of it. And lots of thanks to Professor Patnaik. And our next speaker, Dr. Arun Kumar Ratha, presently working as assistant professor in botany, College of Education and Technology, Bhubaneswar. His topic is ethnobotanical and naturopathy remedial approaches for COVID-19 and allied viral diseases. As you know, always